Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're jumping right into one of the biggest headaches for anyone mixing music at home. How do you take a vocal that sounds kind of muddy and turn it into something that sounds polished, professional, and ready for the radio? We're going to cover some really advanced but super practical strategies. Okay, let's be real, we have all been here. You just recorded the perfect vocal take. It's got all the energy, all the emotion. It's just right. But then you drop it into the track and something is just off. It sounds cloudy, unclear, and frankly, a little amateur. What is going on? So if you've ever used words like boomy or boxy or complained that your vocal just gets lost and fights with the other instruments, then hey, you're in the right place. These are the classic signs of frequency buildup, and it happens all the time in home recordings. The good news? It is totally fixable. You just need to know where to look. All right, so let's get right into it. Step 1 is all about finding and taming the biggest problem area in your vocal. This right here is the foundation. If you get this right, you are halfway to that professional vocal sound. Pros have a name for this area. They call it the birthplace of mud, and for good reason. This is the exact spot where the warmth of the vocal, the body of the guitars, the weight of the keys, they all just pile on top of each other. It creates this congested, soupy mess. Learning to control this one zone is probably the biggest leap you can make towards a clear pro mix. Now this table right here, this is basically your treasure map for vocals. Seriously. Look down at the bottom, that 20 to 120 hertz range. That's just rumble, mic stand noise, air conditioners, stuff you don't want. We just slice that off with a high-pass filter. Easy. Then you see our main target, that mud and boxiness between 200 and 500 hertz. As you move up, you've got other zones for nasality, presence, and all that silky, expensive-sounding air at the very top. So how do we find the exact frequency that's causing all the problems? We use this amazing technique. It's a total game changer. First, you grab an EQ and make a super narrow band. You do this with a high Q setting. Think of Q like the focus on a microscope. Then you boost it, a lot. Now for the fun part. You slowly sweep that boosted peak across the muddy zone, from 200 to 500 hertz. You're listening for the one spot that sounds the absolute worst. I mean, just nasty and resonant. Found it? Great. That's your culprit. And the last step? You just flip that boost into a cut. Gone. Problem solved. Okay, that sweep and destroy method is fantastic. It's a lifesaver. But what happens when the muddiness isn't there all the time, you know? What if it only shows up on certain words, or when the singer really belts it out? And that's the big problem with a normal EQ cut, right? It's always on, it's static. So while you might be fixing those few muddy notes, what are you doing to the rest of the performance? You could actually be sucking the life and the warmth out of the parts that were perfectly fine, leaving the whole vocal sounding thin and weak. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. Think of a standard EQ as a blunt instrument. It just cuts all the time, no matter what. But a dynamic tool, like a multiband compressor or a dynamic EQ, well, that's like a smart surgical robot. It's actively listening, and it only makes the cut when the problem actually happens. This makes it the perfect tool for fixing something called the proximity effect. You know what I'm talking about? It's that bass boost that happens when a singer gets really close to the mic on certain words. It creates this inconsistent boominess. Well, a multiband compressor can automatically clamp down on that extra low end just on those words and then get out of the way, leaving the rest of the vocal totally untouched and natural. So how do you set it up? Well, here are some great starting points. We target everything below 300 hertz with a nice, gentle 3-to-1 ratio. But the real secret here, the pro move, is that slower attack time, over 50 milliseconds. Why? Because it lets the initial punch and energy of a note come through before it gently pulls back on the boomy part that follows. It's all about controlling the mud without killing the emotion. All right, so our vocal is clean, we've controlled the dynamics, it sounds great, but maybe a little too great, a little too clean, almost sterile. Now, it's time for the fun part. It's time to add back some character, some vibe, that elusive analog warmth. And we get there with saturation. Honestly, just think of this as the secret sauce on thousands of classic records. It's that little bit of analog glue or grit you get from pushing a signal through old-school tubes or tape machines. It adds these really pleasant harmonics that just make everything sound richer and more like a record. And saturation comes in all different flavors. Tape saturation, for instance, is like wrapping your vocal in a warm blanket. It's fantastic for smoothing out any harshness in the high end. Then you've got tube saturation, which adds these rich harmonics that can almost inflate the sound, making it feel bigger. And here's a killer pro trick for you. transformer tone. You take a plugin that models a famous 1176 compressor, but you turn the compression completely off. You're just passing the signal through its modeled circuitry, which adds this subtle, expensive-sounding character. It's awesome. So now that we have all these powerful tools in our arsenal, from EQs to multiband compressors and saturators, it's really important to kind of zoom out and think about the big picture. Why are we even doing any of this?
I love this quote from producer Ralph Sutton. It nails it. Our goal isn't to correct a performance into something sterile and perfect. Our goal is clarity. It's about guiding the heat of that performance, making it shine without muting the soul. It's enhancement, not erasure.
But here's the reality check, and it's a crucial one. These advanced tools are for fine-tuning, for solving very specific problems. They're a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. As this Reddit user so perfectly put it, trying to save a terrible recording with a multiband compressor is like putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. Nothing, and I mean nothing, beats starting with a great performance that was recorded well.
So the real takeaway here is this. Be intentional. Be a listener first and an engineer second. Don't just throw plugins at your track for the sake of it. Listen, really listen. What's the problem? Diagnose it. And then, and only then, choose the right tool to fix it, surgically. Your number one job is to always, always serve the song and the emotion of that performance. And that's the question I want to leave you with. It's the tightrope every great mixer and producer walks. When does fixing things start breaking them? These techniques give you incredible power to clarify and enhance a vocal. But the real art is knowing when to stop and making sure that the soul of that performance, the thing that made it special to begin with, is what shines through in the end.